everybody. Welcome to podcast episode 62. Going to be joined today by Ted Johnson, the CEO at Elite Commodity Express. It's a carrier company focused on reefer freight. You know, we love carriers around here. Just before we hop into today's show, got to get through the efRouting top hauls of the week. Coming in at number one for dry vans, going to be Akron, Ohio to Springfield, Mass. Just shy of 600 miles, getting up to 3.5 on the top end. Heading into number two on dry vans at Charleston, West Virginia. Going over to Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Again, around 560 on the miles. 2.9 to, 2.9 on the high end on that one. Going into reefer freight, it's going to be a Columbus, Ohio to Auburn, Alabama. Around 642 miles, 2.8 to almost $4 on the top end on that one. Going over to Green Bay, Wisconsin, heading over to Indiana. We got about 450 miles, again, 3.6 to almost 4.7 on the top end. Reefer freight looking nice. Been a lot of storms. Hope everybody's safe out there, and ended up getting their freight delivered in a good manner. Going into flatbed, number one's in Milwaukee over to Muncie, Indiana. 330 on the miles, 3.3 to almost $10 on the top end. Not sure who booked that load, but whoever ended up with $10 a mile from Wisconsin, Indiana, congratulations. Must be weather related. Going into the number two flatbed load, it's in Allentown, PA, over to Richmond, Virginia. About 360 on the miles, 3.5 to 5.3 on the top end. Nobody really wants to be tarp, chains, binders in this weather, so I can understand the flatbed freight being on the high end. Best loop for a van in the past week has been a Lincoln, Nebraska, over to Dallas, Texas, head over to Fort Worth, then to Chicago, and back to Lincoln. Average work week ending up with gross around 6,000. I'm not really sure where that's coming from, but going into the best loop for reefer, we got in Atlanta to Durant, Oklahoma, over to Fort Worth, Philadelphia, and back to Atlanta. Again, a normal work week. Ending up between 8.3 and 9.3 on the gross. That's more like it on the reefer side. And ending off in the flatbed things. Got a Colorado starting position going over to Austin, Texas, then to Houston, Durant, Oklahoma, back to Houston, over to Lufkin, and finishing back off in Colorado. You got a normal work week, 8.4 to 8.7 on the top end. That's going to wrap up the efRouting top hauls of the week. Let's hop into today's show with Ted Johnson. How's it going, Ted?
Hey, it's going good. How are you?
Good, man. Good. How was your day?
It was good. It was busy. We got all the trucks covered. The ones going to Florida, they've got their reloads coming back to Nebraska, and we're always kind of like a week and a half-ish, booked with all the trucks. So we always kind of know what we're doing. Today's Wednesday, so we kind of know what everyone's doing, up until Wednesday of next week already. So
how did you guys do with all the weather, man? I mean, any canceled freight? Hopefully everybody in the fleet ended up staying safe throughout all of
that. Really no canceled loads, so to speak. I had trucks coming from Florida back to Nebraska that were stuck on that side of it. And I had trucks that were leaving Nebraska that were stuck on this side of it. So we had to do a little bit of rerouting to get around it, but we made out.
You guys were on the outer sides on both sides, so that's always good.
The winter storm was huge. I think 6 states declared state emergencies, and thankfully I got a really good crew that can think for themselves and stay safe, keep the freight safe and themselves safe. So blessed with that.
Yeah, I mean, parking the truck, being a day late, 2 days late for delivery is always better than not having a truck or driver or freight in the trailer. So park it if it's not safe, and I'm glad you run your company that way. Heading into today's show, though, how did you get into logistics? What was your first job in this industry?
My first job in this industry, I think I want to say it was 18, 19. As soon as I could get my CDL is when I got my first driving job.
Okay. So let's stop there for a second. Why did you want to get your CDL the minute you legally could? I mean, what led you into wanting to get a CDL?
My father, my entire life was a driver for the local farmer co-op. So I was around trucks, thought trucks were cool.
Hey, that's a good enough reason for me. My dad did it. I thought trucks were cool. I wanted to do it. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. So you're 18, 19, you go get your CDL. What happens next?
So then I found a local driving job, just a town or two over. And so I hauled cattle feed for the first 2 months, or for the first 2 years and 2 months of my CDL career. And that's a very demanding job because hauling cattle feed, cattle never quit eating. So
Yeah.
weekends and holidays, you worked. I mean, um, I grew up.
What kind of lanes were you running? I mean, you were based in Nebraska, right? Like,
Yeah.
what was the?
And so there's probably 15, 20 ethanol plants throughout the state of Nebraska. And I always stayed in state, but, there's feedlots, from the Midwest of Nebraska, the center point going west. And so I was home every night, but sometimes I was only home for like 5 hours at a shot. Because when you haul local, you have a bigger clock, longer hours you can work, and things like that. And it was 7 days a week for 2 years in a row.
Is this just pure multi-stop, or are you doing one and done and reloading? Like, how does that work on the cattle feed side of things?
So it was a belt trailer, bulk loading. So you'd load up, go unload it, all of that feed at one feed yard, go to the next ethanol plant, load up, and then unload that entire load at the feed lot.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stop and go, but at least it's kind of one and one at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, what led you? Obviously you didn't stay in that career path, local driver forever. What was your next step after the first 2-3 years, getting some experience?
Yeah, so I liked the whole being a company driver. I realized I was probably going to do this for a long time. And during those 2 years, I found a guy on Sirius XM radio, Kevin Rutherford. And I'm actually going to be on his show tomorrow. But
yeah, I'm actually very familiar with him. One time, so funny story about him is I didn't know who he was like a few years ago, and I ended up seeing him doing a live stream, and I thought he was a DJ for some reason. He had like some big deck on his desk, and I thought this guy was like DJing music or something. And I clicked on it, and he's talking about trucking. I'm like, oh yeah, makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, so I found him on the radio. I called into his radio show a few times on Sirius XM, and he used to put on these business seminars for a week at a time, and I attended 2 of them. So he was kind of I mentioned him because he was my education of how to get in business, how to run a business, and especially on the trucking side. So I attended my first business seminar before I ever bought my first truck. And
Hey, that's already like a step most people wouldn't take. So that's a pretty solid step to at least do some research before.
Yeah.
Before
and education is power, and I'm thankful for it. I'm glad that's the route I took because, we can get into this to a little bit later, but everything that trucking has been through as a whole in the last 2 years, it's been the most challenging that anyone's ever saw it. Right. So,
let's back up for a second. What year did you get into driving, and at what year was it you purchased your first truck?
So I graduated in 2012. I want to say it was 2015, August 2015 is when I bought my first truck.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you've been on these roads, man. You've seen things. You've seen and been through some things, a few cycles at that point.
Yeah.
So what happens when you buy your first truck? It's just you owner op. You started your own MCs. It was you went the typical route.
Yep, I got my own authority from the get go. I started out with hauling commodities, bulk. Still, it was a hopper trailer, grain hopper trailer. Still hauling grain and cattle feed.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna ask you your first trailer. So you stayed with what you knew. You had some connections. You were like, hey, I'm a new authority. Let me stick with what I know. Let me stick around these areas for the start.
Yeah, and when I got into it in 2015, we were that was kind of the end of the oil boom, so to speak. So it was good when I first started, and then the whole commodity business and the oil industry kind of, the cycle changed and it went downhill from there. So I then got into flatbed and did flatbed for probably 2 years. And I don't know, my friends in the business, I was surrounded by people in the refrigeration business, and I'm also located in the beef patch. I mean, there's a beef house or beef plant, 50.
It's funny because we had spoke about that on the brief call we had yesterday. You had mentioned, the beef patch of Nebraska, and I had typed something out for the introduction to this show, And I can't remember what I typed out, but it was like Beef Patch, Nebraska. And I thought somebody might misread that and think that that's like a city in Nebraska. So I
Right.
had to pull it back and describe it a little bit better than that. So you got out of the cattle stuff and started slowly getting into refrigeration.
Yeah, and in between it, I did flatbed. Um,
Okay.
my wife Sarah actually reminded me of a story here just this last week when I used to flatbed. I was in Missouri, and I've had a winch bar come at my face while winching down, and I think I broke a tooth off and everything after that. I think it was that moment when I realized I was done flatbedding. I didn't want to get any uglier trucking, so I just took something else that wasn't gonna damage my teeth or my face.
I mean, how long were you in the flatbed world?
2 years.
Yeah, that's a long time in flatbed years, man.
Yeah, and honestly, I had the best customers. Nucor Steel, they're nationwide. They're well known. And I had people tell me that I could never land them as a customer because they don't want to work with a one-man show. And I mention this only because, people who want to go out on their own and establish their own authority, if you do the right things, you can get the right customers. And I guess I did enough of that. I got them right. So it was really good. But like I said, I think it was the winch bar in the face that just decided I need to do something different.
Yeah. I mean, that would probably do it for most people.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I've seen drivers. So I used to work for some rather large carriers, and we would have, the dry van guys would end up going into the company shop, and they'd be talking with the other drivers, and they'd see the flatbed guys. And the flatbed guys would be like, "Oh, here's my pay stub for the past 7 days, 5 days of work." And then the dry van guy would be like, "Wow, like maybe I should get into flatbed." And I've seen many dry van drivers go into flatbed for less than a full work week before they bring the skateboard back to the yard and go back to the dry van. So flatbedding is not for the faint of heart, and a winch bar to the face would definitely be the red line for me as well.
Yeah. It was good. It was good. I learned a lot with flatbedding. I'm glad I did it, but I'm also glad
Probably learned a lot about yourself with flatbedding. Never mind the trucking industry.
between tarping and strapping in the worst weather conditions. You're doing it in the heat. I remember being in Laredo, Texas, and it was over 100 degrees, and I'm thinking I'm going to do something different. I've been in it when it's sleeting and icing, and the straps, nothing works, right? And it's just
Yeah, of course.
it's tough work.
I mean, man, you try to open your commuter car's trunk when it's ice outside, nothing works, man. Leave me alone with straps and tarps and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So trucking or the flatbed industry, just you had your bad experience. You decided this is enough for me. No more winch bars to the face. How did you end up in refrigerated? I mean, that's one of the sectors that a lot of people never really get into.
Yeah. So I have a lot of contacts in the cattle business, the cattle feed world. So I knew of the people I needed to talk to get into hauling, the fresh beef stuff, the frozen stuff. And I sent a letter to an owner of a beef plant, and he's the owner, is the CEO.
Like a handwritten letter, you mailed this to them.
A handwritten letter.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'm not, I'm only high school educated, and I didn't do very well in school. So I wrote it, and then I actually had my mother-in-law proofread it and fix my grammar, my punctuation. And then I rewrote it and I sent it off. And then it wasn't maybe 3-4 days later, I get a phone call from him, and he just said, "When do you want to start?"
I mean, if you're willing to share what was in the letter, at least just kind of the gist of the letter. I mean, how did it kind of go? That's an interesting strategy to get customers as an owner operator. That's for sure.
Yeah, you always in trucking, it's very competitive, and you always have to be willing to go the extra mile and do something different than everybody else to get someone's attention or to keep a customer, etc. So, in the letter, I just wrote to him like, "Hey, I want to start a reefer division of my company." I listed a couple of the big hitters that I was already doing business with. Like I mentioned, in the flatbed world, I was doing business with Nucor Steel. In the commodity business, ADM, they're a huge.
Yeah. I actually am very familiar with ADM out of Decatur, out of Des Moines. ADM's got a lot of really, really solid freight in those areas.
Yeah, so I mentioned those names in my letter just to let them know, like I know how to service a customer. The other big hitters within the industry, tend to like my work, and I think we could work with each other. And yeah, and I don't think he ever received a handwritten letter either before. And so,
Yeah. I mean, I think LinkedIn has sort of accelerated people where they're like, we're going to send handwritten letters and boxes of donuts with letters written inside. I think LinkedIn's kind of helped people get more creative. But a couple of years back, I would assume that this wasn't exactly, a thing that's been floating around the internet. And also at this point, so are you still a one-man operation at this point? So you've gone through the cattle stuff, you've gone through the flatbed world. Are you still one guy, one truck at this point?
no, we have 12 guys here.
No, I understand that now. I'm saying back at this point in time, as we're progressing through your career, when you're getting into the reefer world, are you still just like yourself with your own truck,
Yes.
or have you got more equipment at this point?
Once I established my first beef customer, I brought on my first owner operator.
There we go. Okay, so you were like a solo operation until you got to this customer, this reefer side of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, take me through that. You land some reefer customers, you send in your handwritten letter, and you start getting business going. I mean, what did you do? You bought a truck and brought on a driver, or did you lease on an owner op? I mean,
Leased on an owner operator. And honestly, it was never really the plan. My first owner operator, this would have been late 2020, early 2021. He was a friend of mine for several years, and the only reason I brought him on was because he was looking for a good home for his truck. He was leased on other carriers and just wasn't treated fairly.
Yeah, or probably like a human in most cases.
Well, he was, yeah. I mean, I think he was treated okay human wise, but it was just
Just work wise. That's good to hear. At least the human wise was acceptable. So
people just.
that's always nice to hear.
I don't, you don't cheat and lie to people, and I think that was kind of what he was used to. People taking his money.
Yeah, the money not making sense for the work
and changing the deal when you're already agreed to one thing. And
yeah, just some standard bad practices and carriers that
I was tired of seeing them taken advantage of. So I said, why don't you come on, lease onto me, and let's make a go of this, right? So me and him did that for a year together, and I was still in the truck. So we did that. And so meanwhile, I wanted to grow the company. I was like, well, if I did it with him, I can, keep buying trucks or leasing on owner operators.
So what year are we at in this timeline? What year was your first owner op signed on? Maybe 2017, 18, 19?
No, the first owner operator I signed on was in 2021.
Oh yeah, okay. I think we briefly did touch on this. Yeah, I told you. I remember telling you it's perfect timing to start growing the company.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm probably 23 at this time. Yeah. I want to say I was 23. Yeah, that seems right. And then I bring him on. We pick up more customers outside of my first beef customer with the refrigeration trailers. And I wanted to build the company, but I thought instead of building it from the ground up, I would do like an acquisition. So as my first owner operator, Kent and I are making a go of it. During this time, I'm working on an acquisition. I found a trucking company in Minnesota to buy. It was a father-son operation, and the dad was ready to retire and move to Houston, Texas, and sell the company.
Yeah, ready to enjoy the summer and not Minnesota weather.
So it was between 21 and 2022. I spent like an entire summer and a little more putting this deal together. Like I built a board of directors. I had lawyers. I had a team of lawyers. I had a bank that wanted to finance the deal, and we put this all together. We're sitting in Minnesota with the father and son, and this was a 25 truck fleet with 50, 60 trailers. The operation sat on 40 acres. There was a house, a beautiful shop, all the trucks.
They were just selling lock, stock, and barrel the entire
thing, fully staffed. The house was there. The shop, all the trucks could park in it. It was huge. It was a beautiful, clean operation. And the reason it was that way was because the father, he was in the military, and military guys have a certain way of doing things, and it's all organized, clean, and that's what I liked about it.
Very systematic, very disciplined.
And his wife and him fell in love with us, and they're like, this is going to be the perfect transaction. And the deal was ready to be signed. So we're sitting in Minnesota one night, and the lawyers and the bankers and everybody's there to sign the paperwork, right? But there was one individual that had to sign off on it, and it was the son. And I think the son just got, I don't know, jealous is the right word, or irritated that I was taking on his dad's operation when he had every chance to take it on. And the deal was they were going to sell because the son didn't want to deal with it anymore, right? So I guess either he felt like I was getting too good of a deal, or just decided he wanted to continue the legacy, whatever it was.
Yeah, it was like in that exact moment, he was like, no, like I'm going to continue my family's name. Like that was like some movie situation where it's like at the final moment, like as he's going to sign, he's like, no, like I'm going to continue my family's name right at the last moment. That kind of thing.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, how many trucks were in the fleet? What was the operation, the size of it?
So they were a refrigerator carrier. They had 25 trucks, and I think 50
that's a big operation. I mean, in terms of a small operation, it's a big one.
Right. So that was terrible. I still had the lawyer bills to pay. And I had an accounting firm. I had accountants there. Like I had the bank there, and the bank that was financing the deal, they were from Florida, and they also flew there. I mean, this deal was supposed to go through.
Yeah, it's a massive deal. Yeah,
signatures, handshakes, we move on. And my family and I were planning on locating from Nebraska to Minnesota. Like it was all ready to go.
Okay, so it falls through. The son becomes a knight of his family's name, wants to continue the business. Where do you go from there at that point? It's your other owner op. I mean, what's the next play after all that time and money wasted?
So I go home. It's probably the most depressed I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, months of putting a deal together, like you said, the lawyer fees, everything, and then just for it to end like that. I mean, that's.
What it came down to is the kid just decided he liked, he just saw all the money involved, and he just decided, well, maybe I should keep it going just so he can have all the money. I don't know. That's kind of what my take was on it at the end of it. But anywho,
yeah. I mean, like you had to do, like we have to now. We just gotta leave that kid with his company. I hope he's still in business, man. That's all I have to say.
Well, they're not.
Yeah. That's exactly how I figured that story was going to end too, because we all know the past almost 3 years have been quite literally impossible to survive on the smaller carrier side of things. So having the son not want to be a part of the business and then saying, oh, it's 2021, I can do this, and then just getting crushed by the next 3 years. So
yeah,
it's very poetic actually when you think about it.
Yeah. So they, the last 2 years destroyed a lot of good companies.
Even people that really knew what they were doing got absolutely crushed by this. So I can imagine a kid that was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, running 25 trucks.
Yeah, and I think another part of it too was maybe working, because part of the deal was he had to stay with me for a full year, and I think that was
that might have been the part of the deal he didn't like, because then he's like, "Oh, you're not my dad."
Right. So I go home. And I remember I was sitting between my dining room and I was sitting between the dining and living room on a step. And I was probably drinking Jack Daniels. And I remember my wife, Sarah, telling me like that was the most depressed she's ever seen me. Like I didn't know the way forward. I mean, I spent that entire year in summer just putting this deal together, and all of a sudden it's just over with, right? So I take some time off away from everything, just to like, what am I going to do? Should I just quit and do something else? Just complete failure after that. And I just woke up one day and I'm like, you know what? I almost put this $5 million deal together on my own. I found all the resources I needed, almost had this thing done. So I'm like, I'm just going to build from the ground up. I'm not wasting my time on. My future is not going to rely on someone else.
Yeah,
from that deal. There was too many people involved in that deal that it was going to take to get that thing across the finish line. So I just start building from the ground up, and I was buying trucks every week, trailers every week. I was hiring drivers, and I went crazy.
I mean, let's go through that for a second. So at this moment in time, are you still driving while that deal is getting put together? When the deal falls through, are you still physically driving the truck? I mean, where does the money start coming from to start investing in equipment that aggressively? I mean, I know the 2021 market was the way it was, and a lot of people are investing heavily into equipment, so it's not really a shock to me to hear you say that. But I'm just curious if you were driving throughout
I
that
was still
entire process.
driving, and our main lane at that time was from Nebraska to Minnesota, and
Ah, okay. So
that's
beautiful.
how
Yeah.
I found this company for sale. And
Yeah.
so I was putting these transactions and these things together. I would meet with the owner, the dad, the son, as I was hauling up there. There was a couple of weekends, probably 6, 7 weekends, where my wife and I would drive the pickup up there to keep putting this deal together. From start to finish, and what it would look like, and how the transaction would go. So yes, so after that falls apart, I'm still driving the truck, and as I'm buying trucks, hiring drivers, putting some owner operators on, I'm still in the truck. And there was a long time, many months of doing the business side of trucking throughout the day and at night driving. I would put loads together, do billing and accounting and all the things you have to do to run a business. I would do that from like 8 to 5, so to speak. And then at night, I would go hop in the truck and drive all night.
Yeah. I mean, being a refrigerated carrier, being in the reefer business, you have a lot of, those nighttime deliveries and nighttime things. And it's a lot more nighttime oriented to get things done than the drive-in side of things would have been.
I lived off of a lot of coffee, and I had a screaming Mimi, I think they call it, an alarm. So I could keep going. But and you mentioned, where did the money come from? So I saved my entire life. One thing my parents did right with me is they learned how to earn a dollar and how to save a dollar. And I had a lot put away from just growing up, working a job, and having my first truck. I just put a lot away.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you're smart with your money, especially throughout that market, I mean, if you weren't out there buying, Hellcats and Rolexes and God knows whatever else, I mean, there was a lot of money to be made for the people that knew how to stuff it under the mattress. And those are the people that survived the past 2, 3 years.
Yeah. So that's just so I had enough money to put down on this company I was gonna buy. So instead of putting that money down on the company I wanted to acquire, do the acquisition with, I just put it on towards buying my own equipment.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, you just start buying trucks, buying trailers, finding drivers, finding owner ops. I mean, what's your timeline from the time that you guys finished up with that deal? It was two of you. How long did it take you to get to 12? I mean, was that 2022, 3, 4?
I would say we hit um, 12 trucks and 10. Oh, so it's like 12 trucks, 10 drivers, but I hit that mark like a year ago.
Yeah, so let's go through that. Let's segue into that. So, I mean, we know your timeline. We understand how you got to where you are. Take us through the Elite Commodity Express operation as it is today, the amount of drivers, the freight you guys are hauling. Take me through what you guys look like day to day currently in the current market timeline.
So we got like 10 drivers here, and I have a secretary. And that's the other part of this too, is I thought I could keep running this show by myself. And when I hired my secretary, or when I was looking for a secretary, I just kind of thought, well, if one comes along that fits the bill, I'll hire that individual, right? I got really lucky with my secretary. Years in the Navy of service. She served a full 20, 25 years in the Navy.
Wow.
She did the full term, right? So I got a very good secretary that just knows how to run an office, keep things organized, and she was never involved in trucking prior to working here at Elite Commodity Express. But when I hired her and when we got in a groove of things, I then realized I was crazy to think I could, keep this thing going without a
Oh
secretary.
yeah, I mean anything over 5, 6 units to try to dispatch them yourself. Or I don't know how your dispatch is over there if you guys letting the owner ops self dispatch, but I mean, as soon as you cross 5-6 units, I don't know how you figured you would be able to do all the back end and the dispatch and just all of those things.
Well, at one time I thought I was just going to keep growing to 100 trucks.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
I thought I was never going to stop.
I mean, never say never.
And when I got to 8, I said no more. And then now I'm at 10. You know, we got 10 full-time drivers here, and I absolutely no more.
I mean, trucking is kind of like tattoos, man. It becomes an addiction. You know, you get one, and then you're like, maybe get another one. Like every couple months, you're like, I could use another one, man.
So
trucking is an addiction if you're into it like that.
So as I was growing the fleet, I was blessed with some really good drivers. They're the Tomlinson brothers, and the Tomlinson brothers. I thought I knew quite a bit about trucking, but when I hired the Tomlinson brothers from Georgia, I learned a lot more about trucking. I never knew that we would go to Florida, but our main lane, like 85% of what we do is Florida. And that's where they wanted to go. And so then I went to my beef customers and I said, hey, we want Florida freight. And we get all the Florida freight we want. One of my shippers, they do like 50 loads to Florida a week. And out of those 50, we pretty much handpick, get what we want to go to Florida with.
Yeah. So, okay, take me through that, since obviously we hear carriers struggling to get direct customers. Obviously, there's a lot of tension and has been a lot of tension between, the smaller carriers and brokers and things like this. I mean, take me through your operation. How much of it is customer direct freight?
I want to say, I think I can honestly say 60% of all of our freight, and I'm probably being conservative, but I would say 60% of that is direct.
Yeah, I mean, that's more than fair. Even if that's a conservative number, that's a massive number. I mean, I don't know many carriers on the smaller end of things that can say numbers like that. Most is like 10%, 20%, right? So.
Right. And like all of our loads that leave Nebraska, that's always direct. Everything on our trucks leave Nebraska, that's always direct. And maybe there's the odd time where one of our direct loads falls off and we pick up a random brokered load just to keep the truck moving. That's rare. We are.
So you guys typically just running outbound Nebraska direct freight and then just kind of flipping yourselves back around spot market freight, just typical in and out kind of stuff.
I would say during produce season, which is, probably half the year. But when it's produce season, that's all direct freight too. So there's a good chunk of the year where every load that goes in our trucks, that it's all direct there and back.
Yeah. So, I mean, take me through that. Let's talk about that. What are some tips? I mean, obviously we went through your handwritten letter. I mean, what are your tips to the smaller carriers or to the guys that say, oh, well, we can't get direct freight, or they don't want to work with the small guys? I mean, what are some things you would say to that crowd of people?
I would say two things. You got to kiss a lot of frogs. You got to knock on a lot of doors. And the other thing I want to say, it's all about who you know. In this industry, the other half of it is who do you know? And that person that turns into another person, and you know how that goes. So yeah, handwritten letters, kiss a lot of frogs, knock on a lot of doors, and who you know. So yeah. And my drivers, like all of my drivers could sit in my chair. Like they've been on the office side of this. They've been in every seat of this industry. Like they can drive the truck, they could run an office. Like I have really talented and good people working here, and it's been some of the best to have. Like the team that I have, it's the best team to have when the trucking industry is falling apart and on fire. Like the trucking industry is a dumpster fire for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And having this solid group of guys that know it inside and out, could sit in any chair, where I should say they could wear any hat, within this business and succeed. So, they've helped me put a lot, the guys I have helped build this company, a lot of their ideas, people that they know too. So it's
I mean, it's a connection industry, and the more people and I mean, like you had said, your reputation is going to follow you, and you have to have good service, you have to have a good reputation, you have to have the team that's going to know people and represent your guy's name. Like that's the thing. I was in driver recruiting for a small carrier I used to work for, and one thing I used to stress to anybody we were trying to hire or we would hire on their first day is like, listen, man, like you're out there representing my company's name, but that should be something you want to do. Like that's your company now. This is our company, and you're out there representing all of us, and you should take some pride in the name that's on the side of your truck rather than just, I mean, I don't know how some drivers are out there thinking and showing up to shippers being disrespectful. And I mean, you have to have some kind of pride for the MC and the name on the side of your truck.
Yeah, and all of the guys that work here, everyone, my secretary, my drivers, everyone cares about the reputation. And you mentioned their like good service, right? I have fired a handful of people that couldn't deliver on time or just didn't care enough about the name on the truck, right? Or care enough about the company, or didn't care enough about looking after everyone here. But the crew that I have, they know what it means to be on time. Like we're never late. I mean, our scorecard with our customers is perfect. I mean, I'm not saying that we don't.
It's trucking, man. Stuff's gonna happen. Whoever tells me they have 100% on time, anything, I always say it's trucking. It's never 100%.
Right. Yeah. So I would say outside of the things that we can't control, like breakdowns and weather, we are always on time.
Oh, of course. And
I think
that's the thing. It's trucking. You're always gonna. It's not if something's gonna happen. It's just a when kind of thing in our industry.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's one of the reasons I think that have helped us stay in business is because I have a customer that ships out thousands of loads a week, and they always want to make sure that we're taken care of even through the hard times, because again, we're that carrier that is not a nuisance to them. We are.
Yeah, you guys are helpful. You guys have solutions. You guys are not somebody that's causing any headaches. I mean, you are the ones that they want to be doing business with.
And that all comes from a good team of people that that care about the name, and they want their paychecks. So in order to get their paychecks, they have to do a good job. And I know there's a lot of trucking companies out there.
Hey, I just noticed this actually. Is this Andrew and Olga Tomlinson? Is this like the brothers you were just talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure. It just clicked to me on the side there. I wasn't sure what like I told you, my monitor is kind of far away from me. I'm looking at it. I'm like, hey, were we just talking about these people?
Yeah. I've been blessed, and I'm very grateful for my team. But
big shout out to them.
Like the last couple of years have been the most challenging for anyone in this business. And there's two bank accounts that you have to try to balance, right? So you have the financial bank account and you have the emotional bank account.
That's a good analogy to be
honest. And both of those two accounts have been running very low for me and everyone here.
Everyone in the trucking industry, like I mean, for the most part, like on the carrier side for sure. I mean, most carriers are going through it, have been going through it.
Yeah, and the third generation families, the ones that are too big to fail. Some of the people that failed were ones who got me started, from the get go. And it's been really it's heartbreaking to watch good companies fall apart. They were doing things right, but it's just trucking there's no profit. No one's making money. No one's getting rich doing this. It's just, I don't know why we keep doing it. I guess we're living on a dream, thinking it's going to get better.
I mean, like I told you, man, it becomes an addiction at a certain point. Logistics, if that fits your personality, if that fits the life you like, there's two types of people. There's the people that come into logistics and absolutely hate it and get chewed up and spit out in a couple months, or they're just not fit for them. And a big majority of the people I interview and people I interact with get into logistics and they never leave, because it's one of those things where if you enjoy it, I mean, you're kind of stuck with it, right? Like I couldn't imagine leaving this industry or not being in it in some capacity for the next 40, 50 years of my life. So.
Yeah, and I guess we're all crazy. I mean, we're just
you have to have some level of craziness to be in this industry.
But so like with the two bank accounts, financial and like the emotional one, like both of those have ran really low, and like both of them, emotional and financially, like both of them would have went negative or failed if I didn't have the team that I have. But like, like when I was ready to throw in the towel over these last 2 years, they kept encouraging me. When they were having bad days or ready to throw in the towel, I was encouraging them.
Yeah, it's a full team effort. I mean, that's going to segue us into our next kind of discussions here. I mean, there's obviously a lot of things carriers can do wrong and a lot of things that they can do right and still fail. But I mean, I want to get into, the online reporting, sector of things. Obviously, you said your scorecard with your customers very clean. You guys, always on time, always doing your job. I mean, let's go through. I mean, I know you had a situation with online report that was obviously causing you guys some issues. If we want to kind of go through that situation and how you guys dealt with it.
Yeah, so we were a victim of an online reporting system, and I didn't even know that these things existed until it happened to me. We did a one load with a broker, and the load was like double brokered. It was like a blind shipment on top of it. Things just went really haywire with this load, and all of a sudden, this particular broker is wanting us to meet their demands. And all these demands are outside of what we signed off that we were going to do for this load, like the rate confirmation. So there's some debates going on. There's some arguments with this broker, and it just ended really bad. So once the load is finally off our truck, I get this notification saying that I get this report, and they pretty much lied about the whole thing. Just threw us under the bus, just said all these terrible things about how this load went when they were the problem.
I mean, walk me through the situation. So you book some spot freight, normal situation, whatever it is, what it is. You get a rate on. You guys pick up the freight. I mean, what goes wrong throughout it? I mean, it should have been simple pick up, drop off. Well, what actually ended up kind of going on there?
Well, the addresses, I'm trying to remember exactly, but where we picked up, the company name and like the product that we were supposed to pick up did not match what our paperwork said. So there's like this different product that's going onto our truck than what we were told.
Okay, so you guys get sold like a freight, like let's just for all intents and purposes just call it like you guys get sold some chicken. You guys show up to the shipper, they're loading you with.
We're loading chocolate. Yeah, we're loading, like Reese's stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so you're contracted for some commodity. You end up getting there, you're getting loaded with like chocolate somehow, and you guys are like, okay, this is kind of interesting situation.
Right, and then we get to the receiving side of it. So this went from Florida to Missouri, and we get on the receiving side of it. We have no appointment. No one knows that we're coming.
Do they even know like what product you're supposed to be bringing?
No, like they were completely lost while we were there. So we spent half the day trying to figure out how to get the truck unloaded. And my driver,
and at this point, all you care about is just getting the stuff off of your truck and moving on to your customer freight, the stuff you want to be doing.
Right. And the half day goes by. This place ends up like saying, okay, well, I guess it's supposed to come here, so we'll put it on our dock and figure it out. Well, they unloaded most of the truck except one pallet.
Nice. The best situation, the absolute best possible outcome for you guys.
And then we're supposed to drive this one pallet and box of chocolate like 20 minutes away to another place to donate it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But what are we getting paid for this? We've wasted half a day at this time. So we have detention. Now you want us to spend 20 minutes of our time in driving and fuel and everything. Like, that's fine. Like, we'll do it. But like, we want paid. So meanwhile, my driver gets rid of this last box of pallet, and I'm kind of fighting for compensation and upset about how this whole thing went.
But I mean, you guys are, I'm assuming you guys are asking for something fair in this situation. Hey, we wanted detention, give us some out of range miles, some stuff like that, extra stop fee.
I think we were asking for like $100.
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to confirm that you were being very realistic about the situation as well. So
we were
for $100, very realistic.
Right. We're asking for 100, but probably would have settled for 50. So that way we're not completely upside down on this deal.
Oh yeah, of course. Give me like 2-3 hours of detention and give me like, the rate per mile to go 20 miles, like whatever. Yeah. Like $100, $150, call it a day.
Right. But we got nothing. We got zero. And it took like 6 months to even get paid for that load.
Okay, so the freight comes off the truck in the end on the correct day. You guys just lose. Basically, you guys lose one day on this freight, but everything gets finished like correctly. That's it.
And it's like a Friday afternoon, and I get this email.
Ah, the best. Yeah, so you lose your Friday, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And you only have so much time to respond. And if you don't respond, you don't get your side of the story out. And when you respond, you only get so many characters to tell your side of the story.
Yeah, of course.
So I did my side of the story with this reporting system, but this reporting system, everyone's looking at this. Our company name and my name is blasted on this public chalkboard in our industry, and all of a sudden no one wants to do business with us.
Yeah, like all your spot market freight stuff is now getting turned upside down.
Right. And we're being told that we held a load hostage and did all these hostile things.
Oh, yeah, amazing. So, I mean, also I want to clarify with you, because this has happened to a few people I've spoken to. Did your direct customers at least continue giving you freight through this process?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you got really lucky. I've had some carriers, even they're direct customers of 15 years who know them and eat Christmas dinner with each other. Even their companies have said to them oh, we can't work with you, unfortunately. So at least you guys had that situation sorted out from the start.
I think our direct customers who know us, they've met some of my drivers. They know me personally. I think even if they were seeing that report, I think they had to be thinking to themselves, they do way too good of a job for us not to keep giving them loads. So they're probably turning a blind eye to it. I mean, that's in my mind.
So, okay, you get this report, completely false report, has nothing to do, doesn't reflect the situation correctly. Now you guys suffering to book freight, spot market freight. I mean, what goes through, what are your next steps here throughout all of this?
So this is a Friday afternoon, and I call my attorney that I use a lawyer's office, an attorney that I've used in the past for my business. And I'm calling him before 5:00. And I'm telling my attorney's secretary, I'm telling her, I'm do not let him leave that office before he calls me. I said, if he does not call me, let me know I'm going to be at his house this evening, because I need legal counsel right now, because our entire business is being
falling apart for no reason.
Yeah, by this false report. So I get in touch with my attorney, and he types up a demand letter to this freight broker, basically saying, you take this report down in a certain amount of time, or we're gonna file a lawsuit. And it worked. I think the owner of this freight brokerage realized, he ended up calling me, and we talked it out. But I just told him who he was messing with and dealing with, and I was letting him know that there was plenty of firepower here to continue to destroy his life. When this company that I have, this has been built with blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm not going to let someone take it away from me because their feelings got hurt, or their BS load that they put on our truck didn't go how they wanted it to go.
No, and I mean, this is my big issue with the reporting systems that our industry has in place, is that there's no internal teams that look at the reports. There's no vetting process before they go public. I mean, it's just he said, she said, anyone can post whatever they want. And you have the absolute power to destroy a carrier with the click of a button, and you can just lie about everything and nobody cares. And then it's just on the carrier. You're guilty till proven innocent in that situation as the carrier. And I absolutely cannot stand that that's how the process works.
And I don't know, there's not another industry that has this kind of leverage.
There's the unevenness between the power dynamic between the two sides trying to do business together is massive.
And so that report actually went through and dealt with. And here a while back, I had a driver that he booked a load, and we found out when he booked the load that where we had to pick up and deliver was not safe. These are country roads, county road pickup and deliveries. Kind of wasn't what we were told it was supposed to be. And instead of getting my driver and our equipment, pushed off in the ditch from the side of the road, hey, let's just cancel this. We're going to destroy our equipment doing this load. And it's not. And
how long has it been since you got the Raycon in that situation?
I I think we figured it out all within 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, like very quickly, like less than a half an hour from the time of booking.
Yeah. And so I called the broker back and just said, hey, this isn't something that we want to put on our trucks. Our driver does not feel safe. And they came back and they said, you either haul this load or we're going to put a report on you.
Yep. And that's like those are the things, like we started Carrier Defender about, like just carriers, not like it's to me. I know this isn't the legal terminology. I know this isn't what sticks, but it's like it feels like extortion. It's like you do this or else kind of situations. And it's like, man, that's not how this industry is supposed to be, And obviously the broker is going to be upset and his feelings are going to be hurt, or her feelings are going to be hurt, because they know that their load is tough. They know that nobody wants it. They've probably had one or two or three other carriers give it back to them after finding out. And there's a lot of that shadiness where things are hidden. They're like, oh, I can't tell you the name of anything until you book the load, and I can't tell you the location until you book the load. And it's all in the name of preventing fraud. And that's why the brokers can't tell the carriers certain addresses. And then you get the rate con. It's like Walmart, DC, you missed the appointment. Like there's so many of those situations where there's just blatant lying going on. And it's the worst kind of things in our industry.
And as a freight broker, I would be ashamed and I would be embarrassed to ever admit filling out one of those reports, because basically you're telling the world that you misjudged a carrier's character. You're basically telling the world that you don't know how to build a relationship with a carrier. So, like to me, those reporting systems shouldn't exist, and freight brokers should never rely on that kind of reporting. I mean, go out, meet your carriers, shake hands, put names on faces, and there would be no need for that kind of reporting system. I mean, if there was solid relationships being built between brokers and carriers, you wouldn't have trouble with double brokering or problems with your freight being stolen. I mean, a shame on you if you're putting your freight on your truck and you don't know that carrier. Shame on you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a need for carriers to use the spot market in the same way that there's a need for brokers to use the spot market. And I would obviously hope that both sides of the coin, and even shippers, I would obviously hope that the spot market is sort of a place where people go to fill in the gaps. As a carrier friend of mine was just on the show last week, Jason Putney, and he's like, yeah, man, like, the spot market is there to fill gaps. It's there for, when your customer freight doesn't get you to back to it, or where you need to be for that or for this. But it's the people relying 100% on the spot market that are obviously going to be most at risk for all of these type of things. And I just don't like seeing a company like yours, a solid carrier, just getting hit with false reports. Like giving a load back after 15, 20 minutes is not what the system was designed for. It was designed for stolen freight. It was designed for a driver, burning down a shipper's waiting room or something egregious. But handing a load back because the roads to get there aren't safe was not how the system was supposed to be used.
Yeah, totally agree. And like for my operation, my small fleet, we deal typically with this 3 to 5 freight brokers a week. And these are freight brokers where we have their cell phone numbers, and like I can text them saying, hey, so-and-so is going to be here on this day. And then we get a return load. We have solid relationships built with brokers. Don't get me wrong. I love freight brokers. They're needed to do what we do. But the people who are using those reporting systems to strong arm a carrier, or if they got their feelings hurt, I mean, that is just what a shameful, poor soul individual. I don't even know what to say about it. It's just terrible.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely correct. I mean, there's nothing else really to say about it. Got Mr. Jamie Anderson in here at the perfect moments. I saw your comments earlier, Jamie. I just was on the wrong tab, so I didn't actually see anybody's comments from above. So I don't know, maybe Ted, if this is like a friend of yours. I also missed like all of these comments at the start of the show. So I mean, Jamie Anderson probably asked you how much did your first truck cost. That was like from the very start of the show. Things like this. So if you want to answer that, go
ahead. My first truck that I bought was a 1999 Freightliner with a 60 Series Detroit, 13 speed, and I bought it for $25,000. And it's still in the fleet to this day.
No way. Hey, is that the red truck? No way.
No, it's the brown
Okay,
freight.
so let's take a look at this. This is actually a good moment to go through this. So this is one of Ted's trucks with his son in there.
Yeah, so that's a 2011 389 Peterbilt. And that's one of our prettiest trucks in the fleet. Hope to get more of them down the road if trucking comes back around and gets more profitable. We can get more desirable trucks like this one to drive.
Yeah, I like the long hood. I like the side stacks on it. And I was looking at the picture in more detail, like full screen, like the kingpin, everything just shiny and nice, man. That's a really good looking truck. Oh, messed up my formatting. Gonna toss in some of your advertising here as we start to get to the end of the show. I mean, any closing words about your company? Obviously, that's your contact information. Any closing words about what you guys are hauling, what you're looking for?
Yeah, so I mean, we go to Florida, we go to Maryland, and we do Texas. We have trucks going to Texas and Maryland every week, but primarily our main lane and where 85% of the fleet is between Nebraska and Florida. We haul fresh beef, frozen beef, in all those lanes going outbound from Nebraska, and then coming back, like from Florida, it's produce, dairy, coming back this way. So we're just an all-around refrigeration carrier, and we're just servicing the heck out of the customer. And
Just some good people doing some good freight, being on time to stuff, not yelling at people, just some basic good carrier vibes.
yeah, I mean, we all have families and kids, and we're just here feeding our families and just doing good business, doing right by the customer. And like that's what if I can, the one main thing that we do right, and the one main thing that we focus on is just servicing the customer, because in this day and age, in the environment that we're in, there's 10, 20 people ready to take my spot. The customers, the only thing that they will remember is the 2 weeks that you didn't do a good job. Never mind the 50 weeks out of the year that everything was perfect. But if you have 2 bad weeks, those are only 2 weeks sometimes that they want to remember. So it's just you have to be on your A game every day, every week, and service the heck out of them. And especially in this environment that we're in.
We got Jamie asking you some questions about your Florida freight and maybe your Florida customers, I guess, following up on actual view. I don't know if you want to disclose that information. I'm just bringing it present to the screen.
Well, I'm based in Nebraska, so I mean,
someone will figure it out. I'm sure Jamie's going to be able to figure it out. All right, man. That was some good closing words. I have a few questions I'm going to fly through with you as we get to wrapping up the show here. I know we've gone a little bit longer. So if you got like about 5-10 more minutes, we'll be out of here.
Yeah, I can be here as long as you want to be.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so we're going to rapid fire through a bunch of these things. So what's your favorite movie or even top 2 favorite movies right now?
Movies, gosh.
Yeah, switching gears completely, like absolutely switching gears.
Step Brothers is a good movie.
Okay, yeah, awesome.
And I like Bad Santa because of Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, honestly, I watched that one recently too. That's one I watch every year. I don't know if anybody else has seen that movie. I don't think it's that popular as a Christmas movie, but it's absolutely hilarious. It's like terrible. That. And, what's the baseball movie with him? Bad News Bears or something like that.
I couldn't tell you.
You got to watch that one. I think it's Bad News Bears, where Billy Bob Thornton's like the baseball coach for like a really crappy baseball team, like kids team. Hilarious movie, dude. But yeah, okay. So 2 great movies there. Also, I missed the question before this. I'm trying to go off the top of my head these days. I don't have a script anymore. Craziest logistics story besides the false online reviews. Those are absolutely ridiculous. But any crazy stories you have from your days as a driver, or I mean, anything that sticks out to you?
Well, as a driver, yeah, I've had a couple of crazy moments. I was in New Mexico at a truck stop and got jumped. And the next thing I know, ICE is like swarming the parking lot. and trying to get the guys that they were after. They must have knew that they were in the area because there's just no way they heard my scream or something, you know.
You were in the process of getting jumped by some guys at a truck stop, and then ICE showed up.
Yeah, okay. And right before ICE showed up, there was another guy, because me and him walked over to a food truck to get food together. And after I got done eating my food, I was just going to the dumpster to throw it all away, right? And I'm walking back. I guess that was first mistake I made. I was walking back towards the back of my trailer, just taking a shortcut in the trash can, right? And all of a sudden I'm getting jumped. And the guy that I went to go get food with had one of these like short baseball bats. And he comes out there and just pops this guy in the face. And all of a sudden, more commotion. It happens so fast you couldn't even think. So this guy gets popped in the face. All of a sudden, ICE shows up and do an arrest. And they wanted me to write a report. They wanted a big story from me. I'm like, well, there's really not much to say. I just got jumped, and then all of a sudden you were here.
All right, man. I'll leave it at that one. Usually, if people have more than one crazy story, we'll go through them. But I mean, that's a story that just has layers. It's like an onion, man. It's like we got some food, and then this guy jumped me, and then this guy that I got food with also jumped him, and then ICE showed up, and I mean, that's just like something out of a movie. Like, that's not a scene you would imagine real life actually happening.
Yep, it was nuts.
All right, so heading back, I'm just trying to picture all of like those things, and like you said, happening all within like 35 seconds.
And the guy that came to my rescue, like he wanted to keep hitting him, and I had to like stop him. I'm like, wait a minute, don't kill the guy.
Yeah, like just thank you for helping me out, but we're not here to commit murder. Like, we just need to disable him so he can get away.
Right? Yeah.
All right, man. Going into favorite music, maybe top 2 favorite songs or favorite artists. I mean, what are you listening to when you're not dealing with that situation?
I'm all country. Favorite music is the Casey Donahue band. They're more red dirt country. Luke Combs, Eric Church. I
mean, you're from Nebraska, Minnesota. I mean, all of that making sense. Checks out, man. Checks out. When we're going into sports, I mean, what are you watching? You watch any professional sports, any college sports? You pay attention to any sports at all?
Well, when Nebraska got rid of Bo Pelini, I quit paying attention to sports, really.
Yeah, I'm feeling you right now. My favorite sports team and basically only sports team I actually watch is Manchester United in soccer. And I'm at the point I'm about to give up, man. They suck. They're so bad.
I have paid attention to Vanderbilt and their program and football team. I'm going to start paying attention again to UCF because Scott Frost, who was our coach for the Nebraska Huskers for a while, he was let go. Now he's the head coach again of UCF, and he was there. And I think, he won a couple titles, championships with them, and now he's back. So there's a couple of things I pay attention to. And I don't know if anyone considers the bull riding or PBR a sport, but that was something I grew up with and enjoy watching.
I got to find you the movie unless you've already watched it. It's about like a dad and a son, and the son's kind of like has some addiction issues, but he's doing he's like a bull rider. And it's like one of the most random movies I think I've ever watched in my life, but it was filmed very well. And the bull riding scenes are all very fantastic. I think you would actually enjoy watching that movie, probably more than I did, but I thought it was a great movie.
Well, if you think of it, send a text to me. I'll definitely get it.
Yeah, I'll find you that movie. Just you talked about bull riding, I'm like, man, I just watched a great movie about that a few months back.
Yeah.
Outside of trucking and running the company and dealing with your family, I mean, any hobbies, fishing, hunting? I mean, not to stereotype you, but
no, I'll tell you, anybody wanting to do this business, it is 7 days a week.
Yeah. Like I figured the freight industry as a carrier was just keeping you busy. Like Jason Putney, I can't remember exactly what he said pre-show last week, but he's like, man, I just cry in the shower and think, why am I doing this? I was like,
I've had a few of those moments in the last 2 years. I'm telling you, I've hit the lows of the lows during these last 2 years. And I mean,
Sarah, actually, I'm not sure. She's right. It's the Bad News Bears. That's the Billy Bob Thornton movie where he coaches like some crappy kids baseball team.
Hey, that's
one of the funniest movies.
Sarah, that's my wife right there. I guess.
Oh, okay, there you go. Beautiful. So she knows the movie, so you need to watch that one.
Okay, well, we'll put that on our list. I guess that's the hobby. My wife and I watch movies, and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a great hobby when you have a family, when you're in trucking. I mean, if you get like 2 hours where your phone doesn't ring at like 1 in the morning, then you can try to watch a movie. Like so that's what I do. I love movies too. Like that's my guilty pleasure. When I'm not doing like business related things, I'm like, I'm gonna sit down and watch a movie. Like that's like I feel like I'm cheating because I should be doing something like more for work. Like I'm gonna watch a movie today.
yeah, I'm guilty. I'm a workaholic, and I just can't.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're in trucking, if you enjoy it, it's I know it's tough, and I know some days are really like you said, the emotional bank account is really dwindling. But I don't know. I don't feel like I'm working half the time, especially when we're doing things like this, when we're doing the media side of things. Like it's interesting, it's fun. You get to meet people. And, I mean, trucking school, like you said, it's a people business. You get to meet a lot of cool people. So
Yeah.
all right, man. I got 2 questions left for you, and we are out of here. Second last question. How often do you think of the Roman Empire?
Probably more often than you would imagine, because I often think the world is over, because I think that, like, the human species is going to, just we're not people just. I mean, we were talking about brokers getting their feelings hurt and things like that, and back in those days there was no such thing as feelings. I mean, they just kicked butt and did what they.
Yeah, like they're just running around killing each other. Like, what feelings, bro? Like, you have feelings, like you have depression. Like, that's cool. Like, just try not to get your head chopped off tomorrow at the gladiator game.
Right. So when I think about all the crybabies and safe places and safe spaces, I think about the Roman Empire, and what a great time to be alive.
Yeah, I mean, average life expectancy was like 17, bro. It must have been awesome back then. No, but like, I get your point. I completely get your point.
Yeah,
Um,
because I'm the kind of guy that just run towards the gunfire.
Yeah. I mean, Jamie's right. Like, it's been painful the last couple of years for everyone, and along the lines of you thinking the world is going to be over. I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm involved in any conspiracy theories. Like, I don't believe a lot of like the nonsense you read on the internet. However, this did happen to me last year, and I'm still on edge about it. Like, so, like we all know things are trending, and like like all the politics or like all of those things are trending, in a not great way. Like, we're all aware of the current events that are happening around the globe. And I remember going to the shopping mall, dude, one day, and I walked into like the shoe store, and like every pair of shoes was like $40, and they're all supposed to be like $200-300, man. And I walk into this store, and then I'm like, that's weird. And like I bought a couple pairs of shoes, and then I went to like the other shoe store, and like everything there was also like $40. And it's like the middle of summer, and I'm thinking like, why are they just giving all the shoes away for free, basically, in the middle of summer when they should be charging? And this is the point where I'm like, I think the world's ending. Like, I think they're just trying to get rid of all the stock. I think there's going to be World War III. I start really panicking for like the next month of my life. I'm like, man, like, why are they just giving stuff away? Like, what do we don't know that they know? And, it's still in the back of my head when I see a good deal on stuff. I won't even like, yeah, like I really started getting paranoid about that. I won't even lie. So
Yeah, understood.
interesting fact about me thinking the world's going to end one of these days. Moving into the absolute last question, and we're out of here. When you eat chicken wings, do you prefer drums or flats?
Okay, so here's where my high school education is going to fail me. What do you mean?
Like like when you order chicken wings, like the food item, like the ones that are like they have the little stick at the bottom, and then it gets like slowly bigger.
Yeah.
And then the ones that are just like flat and impossible to eat, like, and there's the two bones that you have to like poke the meat through. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah,
those like
I've eaten a lot of chicken wings in my life, so I like the ones that
Chris says he only eats hamburgers.
Well, see, Chris is my truck driver, and he doesn't even know me that well because I eat chicken strips. Like, what the heck, Chris?
Oh my god, bro!
But I like the ones that stay flat.
You like the ones that stay flat? Okay, that's the wrong answer.
Bigger towards the end. I don't know. Sometimes I'm afraid of what I'm going to find in the bigger end of it. Like,
yeah, the ones that stay flat are just like when you're poking the meat through the tube. I don't know. It's not for me, man.
Yeah.
Moving on to dipping sauces: ranch or blue cheese?
Ranch.
And breaded or non-breaded chicken wings?
Gosh, I like both, but probably breaded because it's
So okay, so you're a chicken strips kind of guy.
Well, my entire crew teases me about that's all I eat, because I have a crew of people that like to explore like what they eat and try new things, man. Like, no, chicken strips, hamburgers, steak. I'm a very plain Jane simple guy.
And Chris says, "Add butter." Bro.
Okay, so another weird thing about me is I cut a chunk of grass-fed butter and I put it in my coffee. So I do heavy whipped cream, chunk of grass-fed butter, and I'm telling you, it tastes just like.
Okay, no. Let's talk about this for a second. You put butter in your coffee.
Yeah, a good chunk of it, like a good chunk of it. And then I melt it in my coffee. Sometimes like I use the microwave to help me, but I drink, and then I eat just butter for a snack because it's great. But
You eat butter on its own.
yeah, and my drivers can confirm that because sometimes I'll send them a Snapchat video of me just eating butter.
All right, I would like, in the least weird way possible, for you to send me a video of you eating butter, and please email it to my business account or on my LinkedIn, or if you want to just go grab some butter and eat it right now, that would be absolutely hilarious.
All right, give me 1 sec.
I don't know where we get into. Thank you, Chris. Let me put Chris back on the screen here. This comment has given us this moment in logistics magic right here.
So we got, I don't know, where do I hold it up at? Good grass-fed butter right here.
You put this into your coffee, dude?
Oh yeah.
Why? Like, how did you even start doing that?
So I call it like the bulletproof coffee with my butter, my heavy whipped cream.
Jamie,
and I haven't ate yet today, and I fast every day. So every day of my life, I go anywhere between 16 and 24 hours without eating. I eat one meal a day.
Do you eat that like one massive meal every day? Like that's your strat too?
Yeah. So I used to weigh 270 pounds. Now I weigh like, on a good day, 230. So I've shaved off some weight. Like,
yeah, no, I did that today. Like I didn't eat at all, and then I ate like 4 plates of food like in the middle of the day, and then I just stopped eating for the rest of the day. Like,
yeah, and yeah, usually I just eat in the evenings. But so this is some good grass-fed butter,
so
and
this is like a normal occurrence for you. Like you just do this all the time. Like,
yeah, usually I kind of like cut me a slice, but the knife's too far, so. Don't look right. It's just butter.
I mean, yeah, it's a podcast first for me. I've never seen somebody eat a stick of butter. I've never seen somebody eat a stick of butter in my entire life if it wasn't on like maybe a YouTube short. So
it is so good. It's very rich, and I mean I haven't ate all day, and this is like the best thing.
This is the absolute most insane thing I think I've ever witnessed. And you went in for a second bite. All right, Ted Johnson, the CEO of Elite Commodity Express. I will leave you to enjoy your stick of butter, man.
Oh, so good.
I might put some in my coffee tomorrow. I'll let you know how it goes, and let you know the
There's
taste.
a difference between regular butter and grass-fed, and grass-fed is so much better. So
okay, so I gotta now go locate grass-fed butter, and I'll get back to you on that.
Yep.
All right, Ted Johnson, thank you for coming by, and definitely keep in touch. And if you need help with anything or just keep in touch about industry things, man, I hope to see you around.
It's been an honor, and thank you for having me on. I hope to do it again soon.
Hey, take it easy, man. Have a good rest of your night.
Yep, you too.
And that's going to wrap up episode 62 with Ted Johnson in the absolute weirdest possible fashion. And that will be the clip I post tomorrow for anybody that might have missed it. But Ted Johnson, great guy. First time I've sat down with him, CEO at Elite Commodity Express. They're a refrigerated carrier based out of the Nebraska area, run through a lot of Florida and things like that. Stand-up guys. I'm going to flash their contact info one more time for anybody interested in using them to haul their freight, refrigerated freight needs. And that's going to be it for me, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.